The Vraxian ambassador slammed his fist on the council table hard enough to crack the ancient stone. His scaled face twisted into something between a smile and a snarl as he looked at the human delegation. New Brisbane belongs to the Empire now, he declared. 400,000 humans. They will serve us well in the mines. Counselor Hira Vin kept her hands flat on the table to stop them from shaking. Around her, representatives from 30 species watched with the hungry eyes of scavengers waiting for a meal. None would help. None ever did when the Vraxians claimed new territory. You cannot simply take our colony, Hira said, her voice steady despite her fear. There are laws. The ambassador laughed. It was an ugly sound like bones breaking. We took your patrol ships. We destroyed your defense station. By conquest law, the colony is ours. Hira had expected this. She had prepared for this. But knowing what she had to say next made her stomach turn. I invoke the right of champions. The chamber went silent. Even the Vraxian ambassador stopped laughing. The right of champions was older than most civilizations in the room. When one species claimed another's territory, the defender could demand single combat. Winner takes all. You cannot be serious, the ambassador said slowly. Humans have no warriors, no gene-modified soldiers, no combat breeds. What will you send against our champion? A clerk with a sharp stick? The law is clear, Hira replied. I invoke the right. You must accept. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. Then he smiled again, wider this time. Very well. We accept. Gorvax the Undying will represent the Empire. He has killed 300 opponents in the arena. He has never lost. The ambassador leaned forward. Choose your champion, human. Choose who dies for your people. Hira nodded once and stood. I will inform you of our selection within the standard period. She walked out of the chamber with her head held high. She made it all the way to her private office before she collapsed into a chair and let the tears come. 400,000 lives. And humanity had no one to send. Earth's military was small. They had no super soldiers, no enhanced warriors, nothing that could match what other species bred for combat. The few volunteers who had come forward were brave, but untrained. They would die in seconds against Gorvax. Her console beeped. A message from Earth's defense office. Another volunteer. Hira opened the file without hope. Then she read it. Then she read it again. This is a joke, she whispered. The volunteer was a woman named Danny Reeves. Age 34. Former Olympic athlete. Her sport was archery, bows and arrows. The weapon humans used before they discovered metal. Hira pulled up everything she could find on Gorvax. 8 feet tall, 400 pounds of muscle and natural armor. His scales could stop plasma bolts. His claws could cut through ship hulls. He had redundant organs and healing abilities that let him recover from wounds that would kill most species, and they were going to send an archer against him. Hira opened a communication channel to Earth. The defense minister appeared on screen, looking as tired as she felt. Tell me this is a mistake, Hira said. Tell me we have someone else. She's the only one who passed the psychological screening, the minister replied. Everyone else showed signs of panic under pressure. Reeves didn't. Her stress level stayed flat through every test we gave her. Combat simulations, surprise attacks, everything. She just doesn't panic. She's an archer. She's the best archer Earth has ever produced. Bronze medal at the Olympics, and she only lost because of a shoulder injury. The minister paused. She also volunteered, knowing exactly what she was facing. No one else did that. Hira stared at the file. Danny Reeves looked back at her from the photo. Brown hair, calm eyes, a face that showed nothing. The Vraxians will laugh at us. Let them laugh. At least we're fighting. Hira closed her eyes. 400,000 lives resting on a woman with a bow. It was insane. It was hopeless, but it was all they had. Send her, Hira said finally, and pray to whatever gods are listening. 3 days later, Hira stood in the arrival bay as the transport ship docked. The doors opened, and Danny Reeves walked out carrying a long case over her shoulder. She was smaller than Hira expected. Average height, lean build, nothing remarkable about her appearance. She could have been anyone walking down any street on Earth. Counselor Venn, Danny said with a small nod. Ms. Reeves. Thank you for coming. Danny shrugged. Someone had to. You understand what you're facing? Gorvax has never been defeated. His species evolved on a world twice as harsh as Earth. He's faster, stronger, and more durable than any human could ever be. Danny looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. I know, and you still came. For 100,000 people. Danny adjusted the case on her shoulder. That's a lot of lives to just give up on. Hera felt something she hadn't felt in days. It wasn't hope, not exactly, but it was close. The match is in 5 days, Hera said. Is there anything you need? Danny considered the question. A practice range. Somewhere quiet. That's all. That's all. Danny walked past her toward the station's interior, and Hera watched her go. An archer heading to fight monster. It should have been ridiculous, but there was something about the way Danny moved. Something calm and certain. Like she already knew how this would end. Hera just wished she shared that certainty. Had recorded over 2,000 death matches in his career as a combat historian. He had seen warriors tear each other apart with claws, blades, and bare hands. He had documented the rise and fall of champions across 12 civilizations. He had never seen anything quite as pathetic as the human sitting in the preparation chamber. She sat on a bench with her weapon across her knees. A bow, a curved piece of wood and string that her species had invented before they learned to write. Around her, the walls displayed images of previous champions, gene-modified killers, cybernetic monsters, creatures bred specifically for slaughter. And here was this human. Small, soft, utterly unremarkable. He activated his recording implant and approached the transparent barrier separating the observation gallery from the preparation area. Human, he called out. I am the combat historian. May I ask you some questions before your death? The human looked up. Her eyes were brown, calm, empty of any emotion that could read. Sure. What is your name? Danny Reeves. And you understand what you face today? Gorvax the Undying has killed 300 opponents. His scales can stop plasma fire. His claws can cut through metal. He heals from wounds that would kill most species. I know, yet you came anyway. With a bow, let his confusion show. Why? Danny ran her hand along the bow's curved surface. Because someone had to, but you cannot win. Your weapon is primitive. Your body is weak. You have no enhancements, no armor, nothing that gives you a chance. The human smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but made uncomfortable for reasons he couldn't explain. You know anything about archery? She asked. I know, it is an ancient human hunting method. You used it to kill small animals before you developed proper weapons. We used it to kill everything. Danny stood and began stringing her bow. Her movements were smooth and practiced. Deer, bears, lions, mammoths that weighed 10 tons. We hunted them all with bows like this. And you think you can hunt a Vraxian champion the same way? I think I can try. That he shook his head. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. A tone sounded through the chamber. The match would begin in 10 minutes. Watched as the human finished preparing her equipment. She moved with no urgency, no fear. Just calm, methodical action. Other species' champions were different before matches. The Vraxians roared and beat their chests. The Kelthari entered meditative trances. The Horvax injected combat stimulants that sent them into killing frenzies. This human just checked her arrows one by one, examining each tip and shaft with careful attention. Do you have any family? They asked. Anyone who will mourn you? No. Danny slid an arrow back in her quiver. My parents died a few years back. Never married. No kids. So you have nothing to lose. I have everything to lose. Same as everyone else. She looked at him through the barrier. 400,000 people on New Brisbane. Families. Children. People with whole lives ahead of them. If I lose, they become slaves. And you think you can save them? One human with a bow. I think I have to try. The final warning tone sounded. The chamber doors began to open, revealing the long tunnel that led to the arena floor. Light poured in from the end, along with the roar of 2 million spectators. Danny picked up her bow and quiver. She walked toward the tunnel without looking back. Human, Sigurd called out. Danny Reeves. She paused. I hope you die quickly. Gorvax sometimes plays with his victims, makes them suffer. A quick death would be a mercy. Danny turned her head slightly. That small smile appeared again. I don't plan on dying today. Then she walked into the light. Hesikida hurried to his observation post in the arena's upper levels. Around him, spectators from dozens of species filled the massive stadium. The betting boards showed odds of 10,000 to 1 against the human. Most bets were on how quickly she would die. The favorite was under 5 seconds. The arena floor was circular, 100 meters across, covered in sand that soaked up the blood of countless champions. At one end, the massive form of Gorvax emerged from his tunnel. 8 feet of scaled muscle, claws like curved blades, eyes burning with the joy of coming slaughter. And to the other end, the human emerged. She looked tiny against the vast space. Insignificant, like an insect about to be crushed. Gorvax saw her and laughed. The sound boomed across the arena. This is what humanity sends. This is their champion. He spread his arms wide, displaying the scars of his many victories. I have killed warriors 10 times your size, little creature. I have bathed in the blood of species that thought themselves invincible. Danny said nothing. She took her position, bow held loosely at her side, and waited. Warden Creel's voice echoed through the arena. Champions ready. Combat begins in 3, 2, 1. A horn blast split the air. Gorvax charged, and Danny Reeves raised her bow. 2 million voices screamed for blood as Gorvax charged across the sand. He covered the distance between them in seconds, moving faster than something his size should be able to move. His claws were extended, ready to tear the human apart in one clean swipe. He had done this hundreds of times before. He knew exactly how it would end. His claws cut through empty air. The human wasn't there anymore. She had moved sideways at the last moment, flowing like water around a stone. And as Gorvax stumbled past her, an arrow buried itself in the soft tissue behind his knee. Pain. Actual pain. He hadn't felt that in years. Gorvax spun around with a roar. The human was already 10 meters away, another arrow knocked and ready. Her face showed nothing. No fear, no excitement, no emotion at all. Lucky shot, Gorvax snarled. He pulled the arrow from his knee. The wound was already closing. You won't get another. He charged again. This time he was ready for her to dodge. He adjusted his angle, predicted where she would move, and swung his claws in a wide arc that should have caught her no matter which direction she went. She dropped flat to the ground instead. His claws passed over her head, close enough to cut some of her hair. And from that prone position, she fired an arrow straight up into the gap between his chest plates. Gorvax stumbled back, genuinely surprised. The arrow stuck out of his chest like a strange growth. It hurt. It actually hurt. In the stands, the crowd had gone quiet. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to die immediately. She wasn't supposed to fight back. Sakita leaned forward in his observation post, his recording implant capturing every detail. The human was moving in patterns he had never seen before. Not the aggressive charges of most warriors. Not the defensive crouching of prey animals. Something else entirely. She was hunting. Every time Gorvax attacked, she would dodge by the smallest margin necessary, never wasting energy, never moving more than she had to. And every dodge positioned her for another shot. Her arrows couldn't kill him. His armor and healing were too strong for that. But they kept finding gaps in his scales, soft spots he didn't know he had. Blood began to drip onto the sand. His blood, for the first time in over 100 matches. Stand and fight, Gorvax bellowed. Face me like a warrior. The human said nothing. She simply moved again, circling, always circling, keeping distance between them. Another arrow flew and caught him in the eye membrane. It healed quickly, but for a moment he was half blind. 20 minutes into the match, Gorvax was bleeding from 9 wounds. The human had taken no damage at all. Then she made a mistake. Gorvax feinted left, and when she dodged right, he was ready. His tail, which she had been ignoring, swept low and caught her legs. She went down hard, and before she could recover, his claws raked across her shoulder. Blood sprayed across the sand. Human blood, red and bright. The crowd erupted in cheers. Finally, the natural order was being restored. The monster was killing the insect. Gorvax stood over her, savoring the moment. Did you really think you could beat me, little creature? Did you really think your sticks and string could hurt me? The human rolled onto her back. Her shoulder was torn open, bleeding badly. Her bow had fallen a meter away. She was finished. Then she reached out with her good arm, grabbed the bow, and stood up. The arena fell silent again. Gorvax watched in disbelief as the human rose to her feet. Her left arm hung useless at her side, blood running down to drip from her fingers. Her face was pale from blood loss, but her eyes were the same as before. Calm, steady, patient. She knocked an arrow using her teeth to help, a movement so awkward it should have been impossible. Then she raised the bow one-handed and aimed at his face. "What are you?" Gorvax whispered. The human didn't answer. She just let the arrow fly. He dodged, but not fast enough. The arrow caught him in the throat, sinking deep into the soft flesh between his scales. He felt something burning where the arrow entered, something that made his healing factor stutter and slow. In his observation post, Esikida was practically vibrating with excitement. "Remarkable," he said into his recorder. "The human has coated her arrows with some kind of compound. Analysis shows it's capsaicin, a chemical from earth plants. It's interfering with the Vraxian healing process." Gorvax pulled the arrow free, but the burning didn't stop. His wounds weren't closing as fast as they should. The human had done something to him, poisoned him with something his body couldn't handle. And she was still standing, still fighting, still hunting. For the first time in his long career, Gorvax felt something he didn't recognize. It took him a moment to identify it. Feared that he was afraid of the human. 40 minutes. The match had lasted 40 minutes. Sikida checked his chronometer 3 times to make sure it was accurate. The longest match in arena history was 37 minutes. That record had just been broken by a human with a bow dot on the sand below. Gorvax was bleeding from 17 wounds. His movements had slowed. His breathing was heavy. The capsaicin compound on the human's arrows had crippled his healing ability, turning minor wounds into problems that wouldn't close. The human looked worse. Her shoulder wound had stopped bleeding, but only because she had torn strips from her shirt and wrapped them tight around it. Her face was gray with pain and blood loss. She moved more carefully now, conserving what little energy she had left, but she was still moving, still circling, still hunting. "This is impossible," Esikida muttered into his recorder. By every measure of physical capability, the human should have died in the first exchange. She is smaller, weaker, slower, and less durable than her opponent. Her weapon is primitive. Her body is unmodified, yet she is winning. In the stands, the mood had changed. The early cheers for Gorvax had faded. Now, there was only silence and something that might have been fear. These spectators had come to watch a quick execution. Instead, they were watching something they couldn't understand. Gorvax stood in the center of the arena, chest heaving, blood dripping from wounds that should have healed by now. The humans circled him at a distance, bow ready, waiting. "Why won't you stop?" Gorvax demanded. His voice was raw, confused. "You're dying. I can smell it. Your body is failing. Why do you keep fighting?" The human said nothing. She just watched him with those calm, patient eyes. "Fight me properly." Gorvax roared. "Stand still and face me. This is not how warriors do battle." The human's response was an arrow that buried itself in his left arm, right in the joint where his armor was weakest. Gorvax howled and pulled it free, but the damage was done. His arm moved slower now, the muscles compromised. "You want to know why I keep fighting?" the human finally said. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Because that's what humans do. We don't stop." She loosed another arrow. Gorvax blocked it with his good arm, but the motion was clumsy. He was adapting to fight one-handed now. "My ancestors hunted mammoths," the human continued. "Huge animals, bigger than you, with tusks that could crush a man. We didn't have claws or fangs or armor. We had sticks and patience." Another arrow. This one found his thigh. We would wound them. Small wounds, nothing fatal. Then we would follow them. For hours. For days. We would walk after them while they ran, because humans can walk longer than almost anything else alive. Gorvax tried to charge her again, but his leg gave out. He stumbled, caught himself, and stood swaying in the center of the arena. Eventually, the mammoth would collapse. Not from any single wound, but from exhaustion, from blood loss, from the knowledge that no matter how far it ran, we would still be there, following, waiting. The human lowered her bow slightly. Her eyes met his. That's what I'm doing to you. I'm hunting you the way my species has always hunted. I'm waiting for you to fall. Gorvax stared at her. In 300 matches, he had faced warriors from every corner of the galaxy, beings of incredible power and skill. None of them had scared him. This small, bleeding, dying human terrified him. "You're a monster," he whispered. "No," the human replied. "I'm just human." She raised her bow again. Gorvax ran, he didn't think about it. 300 years of warrior training abandoned him in an instant. He simply turned and ran for the arena walls, driven by a fear older than thought. That in the stands, 2 million spectators watched in stunned silence as the undefeated champion fled from a wounded human woman. She didn't chase him. She didn't need to. She simply stood there, bow ready, waiting for him to realize there was nowhere to go. The arena was sealed. The match continued until one champion was dead. Running changed nothing. Gorvax hit the wall and spun around, pressing his back against the stone. The human was walking toward him now. Not running, just walking. Steady, unhurried, inevitable. She had 5 arrows left. He counted them as she approached. "Surrender," Gorvax said. The word tasted foreign in his mouth. He had never said it before. "Please, I surrender." The human stopped. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. "Surrender means you live," she said slowly. "But your empire still loses. New Brisbane stays free. Those are the rules." "Yes, yes, I surrender." "You win." The human stood there for a long moment. The arena held its breath. Then she shook her head. "I don't think so." She raised her bow. Gorvax pressed himself against the arena wall, watching the human approach. His body was failing. 17 wounds leaked blood onto the sand. His healing factor, the gift that had made him immortal in combat, was crippled by whatever poison coated her arrows. And still she came. Walking. Patient. Eternal. "I offered surrender," he said. His voice cracked. "The rules allow mercy. Take it." The human stopped 3 meters away. Her bow was raised, arrow knocked, aimed at his face. Her left arm hung useless at her side. She was pale as death, swaying slightly on her feet. She should have collapsed an hour ago. She should have died when his claws tore her shoulder open. Instead, she was standing there, ready to kill him. "Mercy," she repeated. The word came out flat. "You want to talk about mercy?" "Yes. Please." Your empire was going to enslave 400,000 people. Men, women, children. You were going to put them in mines until they died. Her eyes were cold. Did they beg for mercy, too? Gorvax had no answer. "When your ships destroyed our defense station, 37 people died. Did you give them mercy? When you captured our patrol vessels, you spaced the crews. Did you listen when they asked for mercy? That was war. That was different." "No, it wasn't." The human's hand was steady on the bow. "This is what mercy looks like to your empire. Victory or death. You taught us that. Now I'm teaching it back." In the observation gallery, Counselor Hira Vin gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. She wanted to look away. She couldn't. SEK, this recorder captured every moment. "The human is speaking," he noted quietly. After maintaining silence through most of the battle, she is finally engaging verbally. Fascinating. Even now, at the moment of victory, she remains completely calm. Gorvax made one last attempt. He gathered the remains of his strength and lunged forward, claws extended, hoping to catch her off guard. She simply stepped aside. His body, exhausted and bleeding, couldn't adjust. He stumbled past her and fell to one knee. When he tried to rise, an arrow pinned his good arm to the ground that he screamed. The sound echoed through the silent arena. The human walked around to face him. She pulled her last arrow from her quiver and examined it carefully. Then she looked at him. "There's a gap in your skull plating," she said. "Right here." She touched a spot on her own head, just behind the ear. "Your species tried to evolve armor over it, but it never quite closed. Most people don't know about it. I spent 3 days studying your anatomy." Gorvax's blood ran cold. "Ow, how could you know that?" "Because that's what humans do. We learn, we plan, we find weaknesses." She knocked the arrow. "Your healer should have fixed that gap centuries ago. Guess they never thought anyone would get close enough to use it. Please." The word was a whisper now. "Please don't." The human drew back her bow. Her injured arm trembled. Blood dripped from her shoulder wound. By all physical measures, she shouldn't have been able to draw that bow. Her muscles were too damaged. Her blood loss too severe, but she drew it anyway. "For New Brisbane," she said. The arrow flew. It covered the 3 meters between them in a fraction of a second. It found a gap in his skull plating, the tiny weakness his species had never bothered to fix, and buried itself deep in his brain. Gorvax the Undying, champion of the Vraxian Empire, undefeated in 300 matches, fell forward into the sand and did not move. The arena was silent. 2 million spectators sat frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. The betting boards flickered wildly, trying to calculate odds that had never existed. Then Danny Reeves dropped her bow. She swayed on her feet, the last of her strength finally giving out. She looked down at the body of the champion she had killed, then up at the observation gallery where the Vraxian delegation sat in shocked silence. "New Brisbane is free," she said. Her voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the entire arena. "Those are the rules." Then she collapsed in the stands. Chaos erupted. Screaming, shouting, beings of a dozen species rushing for the exits or rushing toward the arena floor. Medics from both delegations raced across the sand, some toward the fallen champion, others toward the human. Hira Vin ran faster than she had ever run in her life. She reached Danny's side just as the medical team arrived. The archer was unconscious, her breathing shallow, her heartbeat weak. "Save her," Hira ordered. "Whatever it takes. Save her." The lead medic, a Vraxian who had probably treated Gorvax himself, looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Then he nodded. "She's earned it," he said quietly. Yes, they lifted Danny onto a stretcher and rushed her toward the medical bay. So remained in his observation post, still recording. "The human has won," he said into his device. "Against all probability, against all logic, against everything we know about combat superiority, the human has won." He paused, searching for words. "I'm beginning to understand why the older species fear them." 3 weeks after the match, Danny Reeves opened her eyes to find herself in a room full of machines she didn't recognize. Her first thought was that her shoulder didn't hurt anymore. Her second thought was that she was alive, which was something she hadn't expected. "You're awake." Danny turned her head. Counselor Hira Vin sat in a chair beside her bed, looking exhausted but relieved. "New Brisbane?" Danny asked. Her voice was rough from disuse. "Safe." The Vraxian Empire withdrew all claims 3 days after the match. Hira smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. "You saved 400,000 people, Danny. You saved them all." Danny closed her eyes and let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for weeks. "Good. The doctors say you should have died. Blood loss, tissue damage, shock. You push your body past every limit." Hira shook her head. "They had to regrow most of your shoulder." Vraxian medical technology, ironically, they were very insistent on saving you. "The Vraxians saved me. You earned their respect. Killing their greatest champion will do that." Hira leaned forward. "Danny, you don't understand what you've done. The whole galaxy is talking about you." SEK, the combat historian, released his recording of the match. It's been viewed billions of times. Danny frowned. "Why?" "Because nobody thought it was possible. A baseline human, with no enhancements, no genetic modification, nothing but a primitive weapon and training, killed the most dangerous gladiator in 3 sectors." Hira pulled up a display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. "They're calling you the Deathworlder, the Persistence Hunter. Some species are using your match as a training video. Training for what? For how to fight humans. Or more accurately, how to avoid fighting humans. Here his smile faded. You scared them, Danny. Not just the Vraxians. Everyone. They looked at you and saw something they didn't expect. Danny stared at the ceiling. I'm just an archer. No, you're proof of what humans can do. Hera stood. There are people who want to meet you. Generals, diplomats, leaders from a dozen species. They want to understand how you did it. Some want to offer you positions. Command of military units. Leadership of security forces. You could be the most powerful human in the galaxy. Danny was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. I want to go home. Hera blinked. What? I want to go home. Find somewhere quiet. Maybe teach kids how to shoot. Danny looked at her. I didn't do this for power or fame. I did it because someone had to. Now it's done. Danny, you could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Humanity's position among the stars would be transformed if you led no. The word was quiet but firm. Hera stopped. I'm not a leader, Danny said. I'm not a general or a diplomat or a symbol. I'm just someone who's good with a bow. The galaxy can find another monster to fear. I'm done. Hera studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. I'll arrange transport to Earth. Take as long as you need to recover first. She left, and Danny was alone with the humming machines that in another part of the station. SEK was finishing his documentary. He had spent weeks analyzing every moment of the match, every decision the human had made, every technique she had used. Now he recorded his final thoughts. When I first saw the human in the preparation chamber, I thought I was watching a joke. A small, soft creature with a primitive weapon, walking to certain death. I was wrong. He pulled up footage of Danny dodging Gorvax's first attack, moving with an economy of motion that no other species could match. Humans evolved on a world of predators, not as the strongest predators or the fastest or the most deadly. They survived by being persistent, by never giving up, by chasing their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. More footage. Danny circling, always circling, wearing her opponent down with patience and precision. Gorvax, the Undying, faced 300 opponents. Warriors with enhanced strength, cybernetic weapons, powers beyond imagination. He defeated them all because they fought the way warriors fight. Direct assault, raw power, quick victory. The footage showed Gorvax running from Danny, the champion fleeing from a wounded human woman. The human didn't fight like a warrior. She fought like a hunter. She was patient when patience was needed and precise when precision was required. She turned her weaknesses into strengths and her opponent's strengths into weaknesses. SEK paused the footage on Danny's face. Calm, empty, patient. The humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We thought they meant weapons. We were wrong. He let the footage play. The final arrow flew. Gorvax fell. The human is the weapon. The stick is just how they reach you. He ended the recording and transmitted it across the network. Within hours, it would be seen by billions. On Earth, 6 months later, a small archery range opened in a quiet town in Montana. The owner was a woman with brown hair and calm eyes who never talked about her past. She taught children how to hold a bow, how to aim, how to breathe. Sometimes visitors came. Government officials, military officers, curious aliens who had seen the footage. They always left disappointed. The woman wouldn't discuss what she had done. She wouldn't accept offers or answer questions. She just smiled and went back to teaching. In the evenings, she would stand alone on the range as the sun set, bow in hand, putting arrow after arrow into targets 50 meters away. Her movements were smooth and practiced, the same as they had always been. And if she sometimes thought about an arena far away, about sand soaked with blood and a monster who learned to fear, she never showed it. She was just an archer, after all, nothing more.